We're now going to talk about something called action operators in the observable class. And these operators don't modify the observable, but instead they just use it for side effects. And we're going to focus here on the doOnNext action operator. So the doOnNext operator adds a behavior that's triggered when an observable emits an item. And the behavior, in this case, is passed as a parameter, which is of type consumer. And this parameter will be called if the operation before it completes successfully. So doOnNext handles successful completions. And you can see that a consumer is just something that will consume the input. It doesn't generate an output. You can basically think of a consumer as being a callback. So we've talked about callbacks before. Callbacks are a common technique that are used in computing when you don't know specifically what's going to happen at a point in the flow of control, but you know something's going to happen, and you want to leave it up to the program that needs to customize the framework to decide what's going to happen. So in this case, we don't know exactly what the consumer will do when we develop the RxJava platform, but we do know that we want a place for someone to do something as data flows through an observable stream. And this gives us a chance to do something when things succeed. Recall also there were these different kinds of events that occur in reactive computing. There's onNext, there's on completion, and there's on error. And onNext is what we're concerned with here. That's successful completion of an event. So doOnNext is a hook method or callback that's invoked when the onNext operator right above it in the stream finished successfully. doOnNext returns an observable that's not modified at all. So the type isn't changed, the value is not changed. All we did was we had this opportunity to have a hook that gets invoked when control reached that particular part of the flow. Here's a simple example to demonstrate the use of doOnNext. In this case, we're going to start by taking a list of big fractions and turning it into an observable by using the from_iterable factor method. We then apply the doOnNext action operator to log each of the elements emitted from the big fraction list, or created from the big fraction list in this stream, when it succeeds. If something goes wrong, doOnNext will be skipped. It won't be called. But if all goes well, then we get a chance to do something. So we're going to log those for each element that's in that stream, which came from the big fraction list. Project Reactor has a flux doOnNext operator that works absolutely identically the same. Excuse me. And Streams has an operator called peek that works very much the same. So peek, like doOnNext, doesn't change the values of the information that flows through the stream. It just provides you with an opportunity to do something with it. In this particular case, for example, we could print it out, or we could log it, or we could do something to it to indicate that we knew that it occurred and we recorded its value somehow, or did something with it as a side effect. So a callback is typically used to have a side effect. OK, so that's the end of the first discussion of action operators. There will be a whole slew of other action operators we will talk about later, but this is enough to get us started for the beginning part of our discussion.